Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Talk Sports Podcast with Alec Pecano. Tonight, I will be going over multiple topics. The first one I'm going to be going over, we're going to get right into it, is I'm going to give you, here is my layout for what my channel is going to look like going forward. It's going to be more of a podcast style going forward with me using, obviously, as you see, Google Slides for what I'm going to be talking about. And we will be talking about multiple topics on sports, whether it be college football. Like tonight, for example, we'll be talking about college football and fantasy baseball. Tuesday, when I do my show, I'll be talking about WWE and maybe more college football. I haven't gotten that far yet, but you will see the outlook, and there will be I'm trying to line up more guests for the show. I'm going to have a guest every 2 to 3 weeks, and I'm looking for a co-host. If you want to be a co-host with me on my podcast, please reach out to me on Instagram and my DMs, and DM me, and we can talk and chat, and let's get to the show. 5 things I would change about college football if I was commissioner of a conference. Number 5, have our own TV deals for every conference, including the conference that I would be in charge of. Number 4, and this is a big one. I don't like how media days are spread for different conferences over different months. I would have all the media days be in July, including the media days for the conference that I would be the commissioner of. Number 3, only one cupcake game allowed on your non-conference schedule. And I'm not talking about you, Notre Dame. No. I'm specifically talking about Alabama, LSU. I'm talking about the Power 5. That's what I'm talking about. Is, like I said, for example, Alabama, LSU, Texas, Baylor, Oregon, TCU, all these big Power 5 schools that schedule Abilene Christian, Youngstown State, a smaller football school just to get money from playing that team. Number 2, if I was commissioner, say, of the Big Ten, and I would invite group of 5 schools, I would send out an invitation to them to come and join my conference. And, for example, say I was the commissioner of the Big Ten. I would send out an offer to like USF and say, hey, you want to come join the Big Ten or Florida Atlantic or one of the schools in the AAC or another group of 5 or a smaller conference that doesn't get a lot of recognition. Number 1, this is a big sticking point for me if I was commissioner of a conference. 3, it doesn't matter what conference you're in. 3 non-conference games 3 non-conference games, period. No discussion, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. At least 12 to 13 conference games. And here's what I would do with the conference games. You get to pick 3 teams you play every season. 3 locked in teams that you play every year. And those are the teams you play every year. And then everybody else, you rotate through and you play everyone in the conference. It doesn't matter. Like the Big Ten next year, they're going away with conferences. With divisions, I mean. It's just going to be the top 2 teams. Whoever has the best record, the 2 teams with the best record in conference will represent the Big Ten in the Big Ten title game in 2024. So this is the last year for divisions. And that's what I have to. And one more thing I'm going to say on that is I'll make an exception. If you have a rival that you play every year and they're out of conference, so like USF now, if they want to play UCF every year out of conference, that'll count as a non-conference game, but you'll get one extra non-conference game. Now we're going to talk about college football win projections. And I'm going to give you seven teams. And I'm going to give you their win total. And I'm going to tell you over or under. The first team is North Carolina State. And I think they're going to hit. I don't think they're going to hit the over on their win total. I think they're going to go under 6.5 wins. Because they lost their QB, Devin Leary, who transferred to Kentucky. And that's the reason I think that they are under 6.5 wins. At number 2, I'm going to talk about Northwestern. Oh, Northwestern, they don't need no introduction. If y'all haven't heard the whole conundrum that's going down at Northwestern right now, I recommend going and reading it. It's kind of graphic. All I'm going to say is it involves hazing, and I think I called it. I said Pat Fitzgerald was on the hot seat. That he could get fired, and then this happens. He gets fired. Their win total is over or under 2.5 wins, and I don't think they're going to get 2 wins. I think they're going to hit the under and maybe get 1. And the next team I'm going to talk about, I believe it's either this year or next year, they're moving to D1 for football. And it's Jacksonville State. Their win total is set at over or under 4.5. And I have the under win total. Because I don't know much. I don't really know much about Jacksonville State. But I do know they have a pretty good basketball program. But we're not talking about basketball right now. We are talking about football. And I don't watch much JSU football, but I've heard from people that Jacksonville State, they don't think they're going to be that good this year. Number 4 for teams that are for win totals is West Virginia. And it's sad to see West Virginia on here in the portion of this where it's the under. Their win total set at 5.5. I'm taking the under 5.5 wins for West Virginia. And here's why. They lost a lot in the transfer portal, and I just don't see how they can compete in the Big 12 now that you got Cincinnati, Houston, BYU, and UCF joining. I don't see how that works. And it doesn't make I don't and another, it's either the next slide or the slide after. I have their coach. Just a little teaser. I have their coach on the hot seat. So that's why I have the under here of 5.5 for West Virginia. Now let's get to teams that I think can hit the over-under win total. The first one being Memphis. Memphis's win total is set at 8.5. I think they hit the over because they're in the American, and the American, I don't know how many times I have to say this. The American is going to be competitive this year. There will be high scoring games. There will be low scoring games. I think Memphis will win 9 games this year in the American. The second team I'm going to talk about is Colorado. First year under Deion Sanders. I think they hit the over on their win total, which is 3.5. And I think a successful first season for Deion looks like this. They go 5-7 and finish middle of the pack in the Pac-12. And that's a good season for Colorado. The next team I have on the college football win projection total is UAB, and this is their first year in the American. Their win total set at 4.5, and for some sneaky reason, I think they go over the win total, and they finish with 6. They get bowl eligible in their first year in the American. And the last team I'm going to talk about in this section of college football talk for win projections is Clemson. I think they hit the over on their win projection. And the reason why is because Dabo Swinney's still the head coach, and people forget that. I understand they have a new QB, and it blows my mind that people think, oh, Clemson's not going to be 1 or 2 in the ACC and be in the ACC championship game. Well, sorry to break it to you. I think they will. They will win 10 games this year. They will go 10-2, with their only losses being to Florida State, who I think wins the ACC. And my guest from the other night will like who I think their second loss will be to. I think they will also lose to Notre Dame, which puts them at 10-2, which means they hit the over on their win total. Now, hold up. Oh, no, we're okay. 5 things I would change about college football. Number 5, no divisions and conferences. Make it like the NFL, where you do have conferences, but there's no divisions. Okay, no, scratch that. So, look at the American. There's no divisions Look at the Big 12. There's no divisions in those two conferences. I think college football needs to do that with more conferences. I heard the ACC's doing it this year. The Big Ten's doing it next year. The SEC needs to do it, but I don't think their commissioner's going to. Number 4, have practices from have the colleges have practice open to their fans. Like Ohio State's doing it, but they're making you pay, I think it's $10 to watch practice. And I think more colleges need to do that because their fan bases want to see what they have with, oh, we have a freshman that I really want to see play this year. Or, oh, we have a transfer quarterback that just came in and I want to see if he's going to be the starter or how good he's going to be. Number 3, less commercials during college football games. And there's going to be people that do agree with me on this. And I don't care for the commercials during college football games. I just want to watch the game. I mute the commercials or go on my phone instead of watching the commercials. Because commercials get boring. Number 2, yes, people, I know what you're going to say. They try their best at calling targeting. All I'm asking is that they be more precise and accurate when calling targeting. For example, if you watch the playoff game between Ohio State and Georgia last year, there was a play where Ohio State was CJ Stroud threw the ball into the end zone and Marvin Harrison was coming across to catch it. And the Georgia defensive back hit him square in the crown of the helmet with forceful contact. And if you look at the targeting rule, it says forceful contact to the head or neck area of a defenseless receiver. And Marvin Harrison Jr. was defenseless. He didn't have time to react. And I think what you need to do is you need to be more accurate when calling targeting. Clarify if it is targeting, then you kick him out of the game. If it's not, which in that case it was, and to this day I'm still upset about it, but there's nothing I can do because I'm not a referee. I don't control the game. And that's what I have to say on that. Number 1, less cupcake schedules. Again, I'm targeting big programs. Alabama, perfect example. Other than Texas on their non-conference schedule, they play absolutely nobody that is reasonably good. They play cupcakes. LSU is the same way. I could go on and on, but get rid of cupcake. Balance it out. Have 2 non-conference games against lesser opponents. Not a North Dakota State, Wisconsin Whitewater, Abilene Christian. two lesser Power 5, non-Power 5 schools that are in the FBS that you could pay them a lot of money to come play you. And that's it for that segment. The next one. Here are three teams and who I think their starting quarterback's going to be this year. Number 3 is USF. And the obvious choice is Gary Bohannon because he's been there for the last 2 seasons. I know USF has a couple other QBs on their roster, Byron Brown and Travis Marsh. But if Bohannon's healthy week 1, he will be the starter for USF. Number 2 is Drew Aller from Penn State. I think Drew Aller will be the starter at Penn State this year. And at number 1 is Ohio State, and I think it's going to be, I know everybody wants it to be Devin Brown, but he's going to have to wait his turn. I think it's going to be Kyle McCord. Because McCord's waited behind Justin Fields and CJ Stroud. So it's next man up, which means it's going to be Kyle McCord. Here are my 3 surprise teams this year for college football. Number 3, Colorado. And I explained why a little bit earlier. I think their win total is set way too low for a team that's going to be coached by Deion Sanders. We saw what Deion did at Jackson State. And he brought most, if not all of his guys to Colorado with him that were at Jackson State. And I think Colorado's going to surprise some teams this year. They might not win the Pac-12, but I sure do think that they will compete in the Pac-12 this year. At number 2, I have USF. USF's another team that I think is going to jump up on some people this year and surprise them. One, due to the fact that they have a new head coach that knows a lot about offense. And that's all I have to say on them. And number 1, Miami of Ohio. I've liked what I've seen from them the last couple of years, but I think they're a real threat this year in the MAC. And that's coming from watching a lot of MAC football. And that's all I have to say. Here's the part of the video for college football talk that I didn't want to get to. It is 3 coaches that are on the hot seat. Number 3 is Jim Harbaugh. Oh, and need I mention, it's a scale of 1 to 10. Number 3 is Jim Harbaugh. And I know what Michigan fans are going to say, why is he even on here? He's beaten Ohio State the last 2 years. Whoop-de-doo. You've beaten Ohio State twice in the last decade. Do I need to pull up the stat, Michigan fans? Harbaugh is 2-5 against the Buckeyes. Need I say less? But the reason he's number 3 on here is I don't think, unless something comes up like it did at Northwestern, he won't get fired. His best bet is leaving for the NFL. So that's why I have him at a 4.5. Number 2, Brett Venables at Oklahoma. And I have him at a 6.5 because he's going into his 2nd year. And he's not known as much for offense as He was a really, really good defensive coordinator at Clemson when he was there. So that's why I have him at a 6.5. And at number one, I told you earlier, don't be surprised if you see West Virginia's coach on here. It is West Virginia head coach, Neil Brown. He's at an 8.5. And if y'all didn't know, West Virginia was going to fire him in the offseason this year, but they didn't because they didn't want to buy out his contract because the buyout was too big. So that's why he's still there. But I think if they don't compete this year, Neil Brown gets fired. And 3 preseason Coach of the Year candidates. Number 3, Mike Norvell, Florida State. Number 2, Deion Sanders at Colorado. And number 1, Alex Golesh, USF. And I'm going to take a 5-minute break. I'm back. Let's get back to the show. Now I'm going to hold up. Now it's time for fantasy baseball talk. And first, we're going to start with some fantasy baseball news. For those of you that didn't hear the fantasy baseball stream last week, I'm going to give you a rundown of some news. First bit of news is Nestor Cortez is scheduled to start a rehab assignment soon for the Yankees. Brandon Woodruff will be back soon. They're saying maybe late July, early August. He may need a rehab assignment. Trevor Story started his rehab assignment for the Red Sox. If you need help in the middle infield at second base, they're going to put him at shortstop. If you need shortstop help, I would stash. He's not on my waiver wire segment, but I would think about stashing Trevor Story and putting him on your IL until he comes back. And I'd also think about stashing the next guy, and Liam Hendricks. There's a small bit of news update. He did throw a bullpen last week, but the White Sox still don't know if he's going to need a rehab assignment or if he could be activated and put right back into the bullpen, probably at the end of games. But if you do need bullpen help and he's available in your league, I would recommend probably picking him up, stashing him, seeing what he can do for you. And the next guy also, and I'm wearing my Rays attire, as you can see, it is Andrew Kittredge. I also talked about him last time. His rehab assignment was transferred to AAA. So he, out of everybody on this list, besides the last guy I'll talk about, is close to returning. He's at AAA with the Rays right now, rehabbing from, I believe it was Tommy John surgery. Rays fans, if you're watching, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he's rehabbing from injury. And the last guy I'm going to talk about is Max Fried with the Braves. I've read on Twitter from a reliable source that Max Fried returning soon, possibly end of July, beginning August. If he's available in your league, stash him on your IL spot, and he could help you win a championship. My word player of the weekend is Braves third baseman Austin Riley. He needs no introduction. 6 home runs in one series. I'm pretty sure it was 6. It might have been 7. I might have that number wrong. Braves fans, Robbie included, you could correct me if I'm wrong on that. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But he is my word player of the weekend. On to the next segment. Here's my waiver wire. Under 75% rostered. And I have some new names, a few new names on here. But let's get to it. Number 1, Josh Young of the Texas Rangers, third baseman. 65.5% rostered. I would like to stop talking about him in waiver wire. Can we please get him next time I do this? Not this coming Monday, but the following Monday. Can we get him to 74% rostered, please? I would really appreciate it. The next guy on the waiver wire I'm going to talk about for fantasy baseball is Mariners rookie pitcher Bryce Miller. He is 37% rostered. He's not rostered in enough leagues. By the next time I do this, can we please get him to 40 to 45% rostered? And then we have Twins second baseman Edward Julian, 10.1% rostered. He is probably going to be he's going to stick around on their roster, as they may trade some people at the deadline. But he's going to stick around. And if you're in a keeper league, I didn't put him in my keeper section for the video. But if you're in a keeper league, I would recommend picking up Edward Julian and stashing him on your bench. And the next guy is Guardians rookie starting pitcher Tanner Bybee. If you need starting pitching help, pick up Tanner Bybee, and you can thank me later. He's gonna get you a mixture of strikeouts and ground balls, but his ERA, he has a low ERA. I would recommend picking him up, and that's all I have to say on him. Portion number 2 of the waiver wire. Yes, I know what y'all are going to say. Why are the top 2 guys still on there? Bailey Ober, It seems like people kind of listened to me the last time I did this. And I said, add Bailey over because he's going to help you win games. He's now up to 61.5% roster. If you need pitching help, go add Bailey over. The last thing I'm going to say on him is next time I do this, can we get him up to reasonable? I'm going to say 64% rostered or 63 to 64% rostered. Is that easy to ask? Hopefully. I hope. Number 2 on the second portion of the waiver wire is another pitcher. It is Orioles starting pitcher Grayson Rodriguez. He is now 14.6% rostered. If you need he's another guy. If you need starting pitching help, I'd recommend going out and adding him, seeing what he could give you. I would also, if you're desperate and you need wins, if he's on a league mate's roster, go out and send a reasonable trade offer that you think your league mate would accept. And the last 2 guys on here, Nolan Gorman from the Cardinals. He's an infielder, second baseman / shortstop. And he is 42.1% rostered. I looked and I saw that people did go out and add Nolan Gorman. Thank you to those of you who listen. Can we get him up to 45 or 46% rostered by the next time I make a video like this? If a guy's still under 75% rostered in the league, that's the cutoff threshold for me to talk about him in a waiver wire. But Nolan Gorman is 42% rostered. If once a guy gets to 50, there's more of a chance that I won't put him on here unless he's still available and under 55% of leagues. As like I usually say, I play on ESPN. It says under 75%. That's the magic number where I cut it off and say, nope, I don't talk about them at all. But back to the next guy I'm going to talk about is Alex Kirilloff with the Twins. He's an infielder. He's a first baseman / outfielder. He is 8.5% rostered. Can we get him up to 10% or 11% roster by the next time I make a video? And some honorable mentions for waiver wire. Pirates catcher / outfielder Henry Davis. He is 21.1% rostered. Please go out and add him. And if you play in a keeper league or in a keeper league, please don't drop him. Keep him on your roster, and you could either use him as a trade chip or you could keep him so your league mates don't take him. And the last waiver wire guy I'm going to talk about is Tiger starting pitcher Matt Manning. Mr. Manning is 10.7% rostered. He's another in a long line of young Tiger starting pitchers. You have him, you have Casey Mize, you have Alex Faedo. You have Tariq Skubal. You have Jackson Jobe, who's going to be up in a couple of years. Any of those guys, if they're available in your league, go out, add them, stash them on your bench. If you play on CBS and you have minor league spots, go out, add them. Any of these guys that I've talked about in the waiver wire, go out, add them, stash them if they're in the minor leagues, put them in the minor league spot, and wait and see if they get called up. If they do, and they do good, you could comment on this video and thank me. The next segment, 3 pitchers to add. I've changed this up a little bit. Number 1 stayed the same. It is Taj Bradley. As I can see, people are starting to come around and notice that there's a lot of good mechanics with Taj Bradley, and he has the potential to have a big second half. Like I said when I did the fantasy baseball advice, players to stash for the second half, and when I did the breakout players. Number 2 is Rangers pitcher Dane Dunning. If you need help with pitching, he's the perfect guy to add. He's not going to get a lot of strikeouts. He does get weak contact. And he gives you innings. And the third and final people I'm going to talk about. Yes, there's 2 guys on here for the Tigers. For number 3, for pitchers to add, it is Matt Manning and Tarek Skubal from the Tigers. Like I said, they're 2 of the 3 young pitchers that are up with the Tigers right now. The other one's Casey Mize, but he's rehabbing still from injury, so he won't be back yet. 3 keeper league guys to keep. Number 1 is 2 Rays pitchers. As you can see, again, I'm wearing my Rays stuff, of course. It is Shane McClanahan and Taj Bradley. Do not let them go into your draft pool next year, because your league mates will take them and you'll regret letting them hit the draft pool on the site you play on. Number 2 is Tigers first baseman Spencer Torkelson. He's a keeper for me in one of my leagues. I picked him up off waivers and I haven't dropped him since. He and Riley Green are the catalyst. I had Riley Green on here last week, and now I have his teammate on here, and Spencer Torkelson. But do not trade. If you get a trade offer for Spencer Torkelson, make sure it's reasonable. Because I know there's some people out there that want to buy low on Spencer Torkelson because they think that that this breakout that's happening is a fluke and he's going to go back into struggling. He may not. If you want to take a shot on him and keep him, go ahead. And number 3 is any prospects you pick up. If you pick up any prospects, do not drop them. And speaking of prospects, I didn't change this up either. I'm going to keep talking about these guys till they either get called up or people go out and stash them. Number 3, Sal Frelick from the Brewers. Go out and stash Sal Frelick, please. Number 2, go out and stash Pete Crow Armstrong because he will get called up by the Cubs. He will. And number 1, Curtis Mead. If he's not with the Rays, which he is right now, he will get traded, and whoever he gets traded to, he will be called up probably, put on the 40. If it's a team that's rebuilding, and they want to see what the Curtis Mead can give them, he will be on their 40-man roster and play. And my social media accounts are on the screen. If you want to add me, follow me on Instagram. It is AlecPecado22. And if you want to add me on Snapchat, it's The same thing minus the 22 at the end. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that commented on the video I did the other night where I interviewed former Notre Dame wide receiver Chris Finke. Thank you for all the comments. And as you see, I got to them as quick as I could and I answered. Thank you for all the praises y'all gave, all the comments you gave me. And just thank you. If you ever have any questions, you can feel free to comment on the videos and like the videos. And if you didn't catch the interview with Chris Finke, I highly recommend you go and watch that video, as it was the first time I ever interviewed anybody on my show, on my podcast, and I would say it went pretty well. I don't know what y'all think, but it sounded like it went pretty well to me. Y'all want to see more guests, and I'm trying to get a couple lined up for the next few weeks. A little hint, a little teaser. One of them may be a current college basketball player. I'm still trying to figure out when he's going to come on, if he will come on, and what day, what time. But thank you. That'll do it for the stream today. I will not be streaming tomorrow as I will be out of town. But please like, comment, and if you haven't already subscribed, it'd be much appreciated. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Thank you. Peace. Have a great night.